all, Lindsay here, back with the third segment in our Surya Namaskar Sun Salutation series. We did Tadasana, mountain pose, and sweeping the arms up, and our forward fold and half fold. So we've done Tadasana, Uttanasana, Ardha Uttanasana, and now we're going to work on stepping back into our lunge. So come on back to the mat if you weren't already. Maybe you just did those videos or you're catching up with this one later on. So we're going to move through what we know of our sun salutation from here. Come to Tadasana, mountain pose. And you just want to make sure wherever you're at that you have room to step back and perhaps a supported surface if you would like to drop a knee in your lunge. Lots of options. Tadasana, mountain pose. Stretch out the toes. Take the gaze forward and awareness to your breath as you root through your feet on your next inhale. Begin to float your arms up. Wrap up all of the musculature to support your spine and joints as you take that back bend on the inhale, and then lead in with the heart, protecting the spine. Exhale, fold. Inhale. Halfway lift, drop all around the waist to support this lengthening and alignment of the spine. As you inhale, half lift, and exhale to fold. Now let's keep the right foot forward. We're going to work to step the left foot back. So depending upon your body type or anything that might be going in your circumstances, this alone might be very challenging for you. So there's lots of things that you can do. If you're in a class that's hard to step back into the lunge from having hands on the mat, you can just come from your fold, and then you just lift back up a little, and you're going to step that foot all the way back. If you need to, you can drop that knee right down, or you can keep the leg lifted. So I have lots of videos with this lunge, and you can totally hang out there and work on this kind of stretch in the front of that hip flexor if this is what's feeling most helpful for your body. If so, make sure your feet and knees are hips distance. Otherwise, if you're able to have that back foot flex, lift that back knee up, go for it. We're going to hang here for a few breaths in some strength. So, stretching the front toes and rooting down through that front foot. Maybe you rock back and forth on the ball of that back foot. Now, squeezing both legs, squeezing the core. So we're protecting the hips here to try to access greater range of motion. Sometimes, of course, we can increase flexibility generally over time, but even right in the moment, if we can engage and protect the orthopedic structure in our joints, then oftentimes we'll be able to access a little bit greater range of motion just right then and there. So pressing down through both feet, squeezing the legs as if you're using the strength of your leg muscles to gently draw the legs and the hips, kind of the femurs, away from one another. Of course, my feet are hips distance here, so the anatomical shape of the pelvis has room for this stretch. Now, if you have had the knee lifted, go ahead and keep that back foot flexed, but set that knee down. And if you already had the knee down, maybe you pick it up and scoot it back a little bit if it feels safe for you to explore deepening this stretch. So let's talk about protecting this front knee. Generally, you don't want to have the knee forward of your ankle here. You want to have the joints stacked. But what I really want to encourage is for you to take my cues and other instructions that you hear other places into account. But what's most important is for you to listen to your body. So what is your body telling you? Make sure you keep your body safe even as we're challenging those edges. So bring lots of awareness to your breath while you're hanging here in this stretch. Anytime you need, you can lift back up off of that knee. The legs are probably getting pretty fatigued by this point. So what you can do is gently rock your hips back. And if you can't have hands down, you can gently rock back, just giving this front leg now a little stretch. Of course, this isn't generally a part of the sun salutations. In a lot of classes, you'll rock back and forth with these hip stretches. But I'm just throwing it in here and now because we've been in that lunge for so long. So it might feel helpful for you to give that hip a little bit of release. And so that we don't have to revisit it again on the other side, I'll teach you how to step back up. So we'll be coming to this lunge on the way back out of our sun salutation as well. So go ahead and lift that up, that back knee back up if you're able to. And again, you might just be having to be up high and to kind of step back up to the front of the mat from there, or you could have hands down and footsteps up to fold. So we're imagining we're at the end of our sun salutation now, and then you could rise all the way back up. And let's just take it right back down. So take an inhale and extend, and then exhale to gently fold. Inhale, lift halfway, back body strength. And exhale, you're gonna step that other foot back. So again, you might be able to do it from hands down. You might just be coming up here and stepping this back into a pretty narrow lunge. Of course, the feet or hips distance. We're talking about the length of the actual lunge itself will be different. We all have such different body types. Some of you might be healing from injuries or all sorts of things. So whatever it looks like for you is okay. That's the biggest point, as long as it feels okay. So you might be hanging in a lunge here. If it's hard for you to keep your hands on the ground, you could be upright here, and then just a little leaning to encourage stretching the front of this right hip flexor. So now the left foot's forward. We're imagining that we are coming around to the second side. So typically when you're moving through a sun salutation, the lunge that you take on your way in, so we would be going in to the sun salutation that first time with the right foot forward. Then when we would be coming back out of the sun salutation, like we just did, we'd be stepping the opposite foot forward. So that each time you do a sun sal, it's okay if this is all like a lot too, especially if you're newer to the practice. On the way back out, then you would be balancing out. So each sun salutation, you do the lunge on each side. So you could have that back knee lifted, engaging. You could remember the rocking if you plant through the front foot, rocking on the ball of that back foot, but really squeezing the hamstrings and the quads. So squeezing all of those thigh muscles, squeezing the core and the back muscles just to kind of support and lengthen our spine always, no matter where we're at. You can press into the feet like you're trying to squeeze the legs kind of away from one another or even towards one another, maybe squeezing as if you're trying to squeeze the muscles in the femurs towards one another. Does that perhaps allow you to drop the hips? Again, our experience will be different. Everybody's experience will be totally different. You might take that knee to the ground and walk it back a little bit to deepen this stretch if you're able to. And then whenever you need, if you need to take a break, you can rock this back. Again, you could be upright if you need to, or you might be able to have hands on the ground or blocks, flexing that front foot or keeping it planted. So, the lunge. When we put a whole sun salutation together, you can move through each shape just with the half of one breath. So you can get through a whole sun salutation pretty quickly. But it's really valuable that you break down and bring really tons of quality and awareness to what you're doing. So you can take a break from that. It's so valuable, not just what you're doing, but how are you doing it? What is the true intentionality behind it? In a yoga practice, it can feel really good just to show up to a class or pull up a class online and to turn off our brain and just do what the teacher says. There's a lot to be said for practicing in this way, at least from time to time. But really investigating who you are, how your body and mind and heart and energy work, making sure to keep yourself safe and safely challenged as you find all of your edges. These are very, very personal journeys that are really hard to, it can be really hard in a regular group class to have the time and space to truly explore that. So we went a little bit longer than we have on the other ones on this part of the series. of the sequence. I hope y'all are still with me, and I appreciate you so much.